Dickman here.
Johnston here.
Brillo here.
Lorick here. David here. Corral here.
Seifert here.
They're here.
Guzikowski here.
I hope you've all had a chance to look at the minutes. If not, please take a moment. And when you're satisfied, motion, please.
Ed? Okay, Dickman will make a motion that we approve the minutes of the April 11th, 2017 meeting. You were supposed to do
Wally,
it.
I believe that's the April 25th meeting.
25th. April
then-
11th was,
You're right, April 25th, thank you. That's why, Fred, you were supposed to do it.
Guzikowski will second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Carrillo, I.
Lorick abstains.
Kavich, aye.
Guzikowski, aye. Corral abstains.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Moving right along, significant common council actions. Carrie?
Council approved a resolution approving the Second Amendment to the Tax Incremental District Number 12 Finance Development Agreement with IKEA Property, Inc. Council also had the following appointments: to the Community Development Authority, Alderman Gale and Alderman Kirkowski; to the Tourism Commission, Alderman Gale; to the Plan Commission, Alderman Guzikowski and Alderman Lorick. Welcome. Parks, Recreation, Forestry Commission, Alderman Guzikowski. Reappointments to the Parks, Recreation, Forestry Commission included Mary Ann Dickman and Ann Byer. To the Tourism Commission, Clint Willis, Christy Bush, and Kim Jankowski. To the Board of Housing Appeals and Zoning Appeals, Randy Gregoric and Lawrence Brodette. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Moving right along, we have two public hearings tonight, starting with 5A. It's proposed sign appeal for a property at 2040 West Ryan Road submitted by Quick Trip, Inc. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Pete Wagner.
All right, thank you very much. I will read the public hearing notice for the record. City of Oak Creek, notice of public hearing before the Plan Commission. A public hearing for a sign appeal will be held Tuesday, May 9th, 2017 at 6 p.m. Oak Creek City Hall, Common Council Chambers at 8040 South 6th Street, Oak Creek, Wisconsin, 53154. The appellant is Quick Trip, Inc., tax key number 878-9003-004. Property is located at 2040 West Ryan Road. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 17.0706 sub I sub 3, which states that gasoline and/or service stations may provide one ground or pole sign displaying the name of the station and the brand and price of gasoline sold. One wall sign per street frontage may also be provided. If granted, the variance would allow Quick Trip to install one wall sign on the north, south, and east elevations of the fuel island canopy and an internally lit stripe on all four sides of the fuel canopy. Zoning of the property, B4 PUD, Highway Business District, Plan Unit Development. All interested persons wishing to be heard are invited to be present. Dated this 20th day of April, 2017, Plan Commission, City of Oak Creek, Wisconsin, signed Mayor Daniel J. Bukowitz, Chairman. This is a public hearing, and if anyone wishes to make a comment regarding this this subject, stand up to the podium, state your name and address, and proceed to address the commission with your comments. This public hearing is now open.
Thank you. We will make 3 calls. First call. Hi.
I'm Bill Rupp, and I'm with La Crosse Sign, and I'm representing Quick Trip, so I'm here if you have any questions regarding this variance.
Okay, address, please. For the record. It can be corporate.
2242 Mustang Way, Madison, Wisconsin.
Thank you.
Yep.
Second call. Third call on item 5A. Okay, with that, we will close the public hearing. Going to move right along to the item then, 6A. We will move right along to the sign appeal of 6A.
All right, I will give a little more brief summary in addition to the public hearing notice. As I said in the hearing notice, the applicant is requesting a variance from the code that would allow them to put canopy signs up, similar to the other Quick Trips located elsewhere in the city. On your screen is an example of what the Quick Trip sign will look like, along with the illuminated stripe. In your packet, they show exactly what elevations, as I mentioned in the variance. They'll be located on the north, the west, and the south sides of the canopy. If the sign itself do meet the sign codes for size regulations, if the Plan Commission believes a variance should be granted, a motion can be made to grant a variance allowing for the installation of a wall sign on the north, south, and east elevation of the fueling canopy and the installation of an illuminated red stripe on all 4 sides of the canopy located at 20 2040 West Ryan Road. Staff does not make recommendations for sign appeals. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Pete. At this time, I'll open it up to the council or the commission for questions or comments.
And which one?
We are on 5A, Wally.
Okay, 5A, yes, I have something.
Go right ahead.
Okay, first of all, looking at the number of signs, I looked at the Quick Trip on 6th and Drexel, and they have one canopy sign. I realized that they do have 2 different fueling stations, whereas this one only has the one station. But they only have one, and then they have a sign on the building. Looking at 51st and Rawson, they have 0 canopy signs, but they have a little different configuration around the canopy itself. It's more like a little siding setup, you know. And they have, surprised me, they have 0 and they have 1 on the building. And when I look at this, it just, to me, looks like it's overkill. And I'm afraid to say, go ahead on this, because other ones will come in and say, well, you let them do that. Now we're, associates. Because this one here, you have 3 canopy signs, plus the illuminated red bar going around. So I'm not happy with that number. I know I want the people driving by to see and know it's there, but I just think compared to the other Quick Trip ones, I think this is an overkill.
I agree with you, Wally. I saw the same thing, 1 sign on 6th Street. On 13th, they also have just 1 sign on their tank or canopy cover. And I agree with you. I think there's a little overkill, and if we allow it here, it could expand to the other 2 in the city of Oak Creek.
I have a question for the applicant.
Go ahead, Commissioner Chandler.
Can you provide us a little more information on why so many signs?
Well, as far as Quick Trip, they're trying to stay consistent to their look. I mean, you mentioned that there's a few stores that are a little different, but as they build new property, they've been trying to keep and maintain the same look. So that is the appearance that they're after, put their name out there and their logo.
And so for the canopy, is it on all 4 sides?
It's only on 3 sides?
The north, the south, and the west. There's an arrow here in the south and then the west. And unfortunately, my report, I said east, but it was the west. So
West? Okay.
it's facing 20th,
Yeah.
it's facing Highway 100, and then internally toward the gas station.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Pat.
I guess I just want to be clear on the picture that was up and that we see it. So, that one. So I can see Quick Trip on the building. I can see Quick Trip on at least 2 sides of the canopy. I got Quick Trip across the top of every pump, which is pretty visible. I get it. I mean, they're definitely getting their message across. But when I look at, we don't regulate the Quick Trip on the pumps, which in my mind is still a sign.
Right, they're not proposed, this is an illustration of elsewhere.
So my question is there not going to be anything on the pumps? Or is that just not, don't ask, don't tell?
Looking at their sign plan up on the screen here, they have nothing illustrated on the fueling pump station. So from my standpoint, there should be no signs identifying the brand on those fueling stations.
I guess my point would be to make it clear, depending which way the commission goes, of what's expected there, because it really starts to build up.
Commissioner Dickman, you said the Drexel Avenue, how many did they have on the canopy? Just
They have
one?
1 on each canopy, but they understand they have 2 canopies because one of them is for
Yeah.
trucks. This particular location is not going to have a truck canopy. So they would have 1 on their main canopy as far as, and also on their store. Besides, on the corner, though, they have a good placement for their corner sign, as far as gas price, et
Wally, are the canopy signs west or south at Quick Trip on
cetera.
10th?
On that, it's on the west side.
Mayor, I think that's where I was going with it. If I'm looking at this location, street side being Ryan Road facing the
South.
south elevation, if I've made that turn onto 20th or whatever that is,
Right.
I know you're there. I'm coming in. If there was to be a compromise here, in the third side that they're proposing is on the car wash side.
North side.
So the dialysis center can see it, and if I'm coming through the car wash, I can see it. But, exactly. So my suggestion would be street side, I'm more than good with, I think they're entitled to. I certainly wouldn't have a problem with the pump signs if that was the case. But that would be my suggestion.
Brian?
Pete, for the variance, even if they are granted one sign on the canopy, they would still need this variance, correct?
Yes, because they're already having, there were no approvals for the canopy. We usually have it one per building or two, one per street frontage. So they're already having 3 signs on the main building would maximize their signage already.
I guess the variance could be for one sign on the canopy, variance for the LED lighting on the
Stripe.
canopy, the stripe. Is there anything else in there?
No, if you were to limit the number of signs, I would, ask the applicant if there's a preference or, in your recommendation, allowing the variance to have a canopy sign on the west elevation, south elevation, spell it out so that way the applicant knows where it's going to go, or discuss it with the applicant if they have a preference.
Could we leave that option to them? I mean, if we granted one, I think
They
I
could
know-
put on
I
one,
think
they
I know
only
where it
got
would
one
go.
side, yeah.
I don't think they're putting
yeah.
it by the car wash, but
Right.
yeah.
If you just want to grant the number of signs, which would be one wall sign and the illuminated stripe on all 4 elevations, that would be a good recommendation or a good variance language.
Anyone else?
I have another
Chelsea.
question. So is the illuminated stripe considered a sign? No?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No? I guess I'll weigh in. I do agree with, yes. Oh,
Could we get the applicant to put you on the spot? And do you have a suggestion on which one?
If we had a
It's down to
preference, it would
one?
be on the south elevation.
South one? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
as long as I weigh in, I do agree with Pat. The north side, I don't think it's necessary. South side, as the applicant stated, is essential. I could even justify the west side sporting out to 20th, getting some view coming east down Ryan. So I wouldn't have angst with that, but again, it's up to the commission. That's all I have to say on that one.
I just like to ask the commissioners, if we did go with what the mayor just stated, that's the 2, would you be satisfied with that? Okay, I think that's what we'll go. Fred,
I just think it's still overkill.
still overkill? Okay.
They still have the monument sign out there, correct? Or the
They have a very large, they'll have
Yeah.
a very, I think it's a 40-foot tall legal non-conforming sign that identifies the business along with the gasoline prices. If you remember when they had KFC and A&W root beer and all that, so it's a pretty large sign.
Is that grandfathered in
Yes.
until it falls down type of thing? Or?
It won't fall down.
It'll
Again,
never fall down, yeah.
Even with the monument sign, my argument is if you're eastbound on the south side of Ryan, you're probably going to pick up the sign quicker on a canopy than you will looking through traffic at the monument. But again, your call, guys and ladies.
Question on the monument going forward, and Pete, you're right, there was, Value Inn was up there, KFC was up there. Is it just Quick Trip up there? And in terms of square footage of what's going to be up there to what was, do we have any,
It'd be the same size.
as all of them collectively? So Quick Trip's got a pretty big monument sign.
Yeah, and I believe they had.
I mean, it must max out at some point, right? Square footage wise?
What's there would never be permitted today.
Okay, it's grandfathered.
Yeah, it's a legal non-conforming sign with what they have there, and they have plans for that sign. If I can find it for you quickly, I will bring that up on the screen.
Just a point of reference to Wally earlier mentioned 51st and Rawson. That's actually a Franklin location, although a Quick Trip. I really don't know what their sign ordinances are, so I don't really take that into account to the borders of Oak Creek as to what we allow versus what they're doing there. So
Dan, could I just address that? Their canopy is a lot different than this one. There is no red stripes. It's like shingles on all the sides, so it
they-
looks totally different.
they took that
Different
building over
situation.
from
Yeah.
another gas
It was an
station.
Andy's gas station.
Andes, okay, so
So they
that's why
worked with
that's-
what they had.
Okay.
One additional question. Is there a pole sign there on that corner?
Yes, that's what we were talking about, that legal non-conforming sign where it used to have KFC, A&W root beer, it had Value Inn, I think it had ATM sign, a time machine
I
sign.
thought I heard 9 foot, but I thought this was way
Oh, no, this is like 40 feet tall.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it's,
Yes.
it's
Then
a-
I stand corrected, because I thought it was a normal monument
No,
sign.
No,
at
this
ground
is-
level, not over 8
It's,
foot.
it's,
it's
then
one
I
of the older
apologize, then.
signs, yeah.
Yeah, they'd have some
there's plenty.
side view down Ryan. Okay.
Without that, Mayor, I would agree with you completely, but it's pretty big. And that's why I asked what they would be left with. If we're not shrinking anything there, it's already there.
Pete, you still figuring something out there?
I was just seeing if they submitted a while back what their, that pole sign would look like. And I'm just trying to see if I can find the graphic just to give you an illustration of what it is that they were proposing that sign to look like once they remodel the site. And I'm finding plans, but I'm not finding sign plans. And that's not really for a topic for tonight anyhow. It's the canopy signs of whether there should be any, 1, 2, or the 3 that they're requesting, along with the illuminated stripe.
I just think it does relate, Pete, to whether or not we want to put one to that elevation. As long as they have the existing pylon, that, I mean, it matters to me.
Okay, I'll keep looking for it.
I think we're clear on it.
Which I would think then that sign could easily be seen also coming down 20th Street then.
I would agree with you.
Okay.
I thought it was an 8-foot monument
Yeah.
sign. I didn't realize
Yeah.
it was a pole. It's been a while since I've been by that way. Suspense is killing me here. As long as the applicant's here,
I
do
can
you have
show
an
you.
intended opening date?
Thanks, Pete.
Hey, Pete, when you do, when you find them, when you're done, why don't you just kind of review with us what you think the variance would be if we allowed the one sign on the canopy along with the red stripe? And then the 3, we haven't talked about the 3 signs yet, the wall signs on the building, is that correct?
Wall signs are,
They're legal?
they're fine, yeah.
They're fine,
Yep,
okay.
they don't need any approval. This is strictly the canopy. Here is, I just went to Google Maps just to give you an idea. They already started tearing down the sign, but this is how tall that sign is that's there. And they're going to have Quick Trip on the top along with the different fuel prices going down. So, I mean, it's quite the sign. I mean, it's not your typical 8-foot tall monument sign.
Right.
It's like you see at Speedway across
Good
the
call,
way.
Pat. Good call. So, everybody satisfied and in full understandance of where the signs would be? Fred, Chauncey. Brian?
And we're just basically talking about the quick trip, are anybody considering illumination around the other sides? Or just the quick trip sign and illumination on the south side? And
Good
that's
point.
it.
Again, it was my understanding you'd have the stripes going around in the quick trip to the south.
Is
That's
that right?
my
sir?
understanding.
All the way around? Okay.
That's what I'm going to move for.
Yeah, that's a good question, yeah.
Behind the stripe, a stretch to call it a sign, just a bare stripe.
Good.
I think we're good.
Earl makes a motion, the commission grant a variance allowing for the installation of a wall sign on the south elevation, allowing for the striping on all 4 sides.
Yes.
Does that work?
Yep.
You want a little help with that, Pat?
Please.
How about a motion to approve one canopy sign on the south elevation, two LED stripes, or sorry, three LED stripes on the existing fuel canopy? Which is what was requested, 3 stripes.
That sounds good.
Corral concurs. And installation canopy located at 2040 West Ryan Road.
Okay, Dickman seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Kuzikowski.
Corral, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and good luck. Thank you. Moving right along, we're going to go back to the next public hearing, 5B, sign appeal by HSI at Drexel Ridge. Pete?
Moment while I bring up the document. I will read the public hearing notice into the record. City of Oak Creek, notice of public hearing before the Plan Commission. Public hearing for a sign appeal will be held Tuesday, May 9th, 2017, 6 p.m. at Oak Creek City Hall, Common Council Chambers at 8040 South 6th Street, Oak Creek, Wisconsin, 53154. The appellant is HSI Drexel Ridge LLC, tax key number 7799008. Property is located at 7798 South Drexel Ridge Way. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 17.0705 sub A, which states that residential development sign shall not exceed 6 feet in height. If granted, the variance would allow the applicant to install a bronze residential development sign on a decorative pier that is 8 feet 10 inches in height on both the east and west side of the road located at 7798 South Drexel Ridge. Zoning of the property is RM1 PUD, multifamily residential district, plan unit development. All interested persons wishing to be heard are invited to be present. Dated this 20th day of April, 2017. Plan Commission, City of Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Signed Mayor Daniel J. Bukowitz, Chairman. This is a public hearing. If you have any comments, please step up to the podium, state your name and address, and have your questions for the commission. This public hearing is now open.
Thank you. We will make 3 calls. First call. Evening, Arden.
Arden Degner, 8540 South Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm completely familiar with this setup. As we approach the lake from Drexel Avenue, there is a large hill. Even an 8-foot sign will not be seen because of that hill. Why do we have to have such a large, tall, unseen sign in a residential development? I maintain that this sign should be in line with our requirements for residential apartment dwelling, which is 6 feet. In addition to that, they're putting this accessory structure. Is this sign going to be located on the accessory structure? If, without consideration of the number of school children and the school buses that will have to go around this guard shack, I'm not in favor of any of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Second call. Third call. Okay, we will close the public hearing and we will move on to item 6B.
All right, I will give a little extra synopsis here. As you recall, last month the Plan Commission granted a variance allowing the installation of 2 non-illuminated bronze development signs, as well as an entrance sign as illustrated in the photo on your monitor right now. At that time, the variance was granted for the number. However, they were proposing to have those piers, which were approved at Plan Commission site plan review, for 6 foot tall, and now they're looking for an 8 foot 10 inch. And the rationale that was shared was that, aesthetically it looked better with the 8 foot 10 inch than it did at 6 foot. If the applicant would like to, come up and explain a little bit more than that, if maybe I'm missing something, more than welcome. So later tonight, we'll be reviewing the site plan review because of it was only 6. So tonight is one of 2 parts. First part is whether or not an 8-foot, 10-inch decorative pier sign should be affixed to that, something that tall. That's what this is for right now. And then later tonight, we're going to discuss the site plan of whether 8-foot, 10-inch decorative piers are an appropriate accessory use for this development. So this is a two-part issue tonight. With that said, if the Plan Commission believes that a variance should be granted, a motion can be made to grant a variance allowing for the installation of a development sign on two 8-foot, 10-inch tall decorative piers located at 7798 South Drexel Ridge Way. As I forgot to mention the last one, there are the four conditions for deliberation, whether or not to grant the variance, letters A through D in your report. With that said, staff does not make recommendations on sign appeals. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Pete. With that, we'll open it up for questions or comments. Fred?
We have the applicant here.
They are.
Right.
Evening. Name and address for the record.
Tony DeRosa, 18500 West Corporate Drive, Brookfield, Wisconsin, 53045.
Can you explain the reason for the 8-foot 9-inch compared to the 6-foot that we originally granted you?
Sure. So the original approval included piers at 6 feet in height. And in the boulevard where you see this new guardhouse structure before you, we had a very simple two-sided masonry wall for a sign. And it had signage on both sides. And that's what was approved by the city. We wanted to take an opportunity to look at how can we upgrade our entrance. So that's where this whole concept came from. Can we make it better than a very simplistic masonry brick sign? So what we did is we went down the path of creating something that's more interesting at the entrance. We're trying to create more of a country club type feel, if you will, to make this feel a little more high end, rather than just, you drive by a lot of subdivisions and other developments, and the typical sign is a brick wall with letters on it. So that how can we do something that's nicer than what's typical? So with the scale of the structure as an accessory structure, our accessory structures, I think under our PUD approval, I believe are up to 17 feet. And the guardhouse structure itself is, I believe, 11 and a half feet tall. So when we look at scale and the design of how does this create a very strong entrance feature coming in, that's how we came up with increasing the height of the piers from 6 feet to the 8.5 feet.
I have another question about the sign or the plaque that's on the concrete pillars. They're only like 1.5 feet by 2 feet. That's a pretty small sign if you're standing back onto the road and looking out. To me, it'd be kind of difficult to even read that from that distance of, 30, 40 feet away.
Sure.
How come you're making them, I see the pillars, but the sign is awful small, and to me, it'd be difficult to read, especially if it isn't lit up at night.
So we're trying to balance. We don't want to inundate the entrance here with multiple large, oversized signage. So on the guardhouse structure itself, there's also a sign there. So we look at the two cast bronze plaques on each pier as more of a decorative piece. Not that somebody drives by and says, "Where's Drexel Ridge?" and they can't find it. So it's more from a design perspective, not necessarily a functional of can you read it from 40 feet or 50 feet.
Pat?
Couple of Mr. DeRosa's, is that right?
Yes.
A couple of questions. You already answered the scale issue, which is kind of what I thought. How far off the road is it? 40 feet? Did I hear that right?
I believe our right of way here is 60 feet.
60 feet. So the signage on the pillars, let me address that first. It's decorative. Looks nice when I pull up. No one's going to see it from the road. Fred's correct. So I think it's more of a decorative piece that, quite frankly, I agree it looks better. I think with the guard tower look that you put in the middle, you almost need something on the sides to kind of cordon it off. I look at the 4 reasons. I can't find a reason not to have it there, and quite frankly, I think it looks good, even though I know we're trying to limit signage. I don't even count these as signs. I count it more as a architectural look to the whole development. I think we got a lot of other apartment buildings in the city that I wish looked like this from the front. So from that standpoint, And where it sits back, I think it's an improvement. I don't have any issues.
Commissioner Chandler, anything? Okay. Chris? Greg?
I'm just curious, this is my first planning meeting, so I didn't see what was approved as far as the prior
Sure.
option.
I believe it might be in the
Was it not
packet.
did it not look like a kind of a lighthouse look like this does? Was it more
Well,
shorter?
actually,
It's still, yeah, the pier still had a decorative light or lantern at the top. And then in the boulevard, it was simply a brick wall that ran north and south. And we were going to put the signs on both sides that would say Drexel Ridge. So in essence, we are, on some level, actually reducing the amount of signage in terms of square footage area than what was previously approved.
This sign, I mean, can this sign basically just completely proportionately be reduced to 6 feet? Or was that,
oh, the pier would be 6 foot. The sign would stay the same at 18 by 24.
That's
Correct.
small.
it would look at basically
Yes.
a smaller version of it?
I like the larger version. I think it to scale, I think it works well. It's got a small, attractive panel to it. I like it.
Johnston? Polly?
I think it looks good, for this development, it would do good. I guess I have a question though for Pete. When I looked at, and I shouldn't do this, I'm looking ahead to 6J. I want to make sure that, what we're approving here, we're not supposed to be approving on 6J. It's just kind of a confusing deal when you look at the two.
Right, it's because of the sign appeal we had the hearing first. The sign appeal, the purpose of this is that right now we would not issue a sign permit fixing that bronze sign to a base that is 8 feet 10 inches tall.
Okay.
So this appeal is going to say, all right, yes, you can put a development sign on an 8 foot 10 inch decorative pier. Later tonight, the applicant and staff will report on, here's the site plan. It has changed from the last approval, which when you saw the 6 foot tall pier with the letter R on it, with that, just a sketch drawing of a monument sign. Well, they're coming back asking for a new site plan that's going to talk about having the taller piers and then also the guardhouse.
Okay, so this has nothing to, 6B has nothing to do with the guardhouse and its sign, strictly the two 8 foot piers along with the smaller sign.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure we're
6J
working together.
should be pretty quick.
We all in? For what it's worth, I agree with the applicant. It gives it a country club feel. I like the 8 foot pillars. I think proportionally it looks better with call it a guard shack for lack of a better word. I agree with Pat. I wish more of our apartments had a welcoming entrance like this. So as far as the brass plaques go, kind of gives it a little ritzier feel. And I would call them decorative more than informational. And quite frankly, yes, you won't see them off the road. But again, you shouldn't be going in there unless you got business in there either way, whether living or visiting. So that's my 2 cents. That, we'll look for a motion.
Okay, Dick will make a motion that the Plan Commission grant a variance allowing the installation of two non-illuminated bronze development signs. They're 1.5 by 2 foot at the entrance of the development, and that they can be located or installed on two 8 foot by 10 inch tall decorative piers.
Grillo, second.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Sikowski, aye.
Burrell, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Moving right along, should we move ahead on 6J and move HSI out of here so they don't have to wait through the whole deal?
It's your discretion.
I think that would be appropriate to the applicant. So, let's go to 6J, as long as everybody's mind is on this development. So again, you're looking at site and review plans submitted by HSI Drexel Ridge for an accessory structure located on a portion of the property at 7798 South Drexel Ridge Way. So, Pete, whenever you are ready.
All right. Material looks strangely similar, doesn't it? The applicant previously had approved at the entrance to Drexel Town Square, or not Drexel Town Square, Drexel Ridge Apartments, to have a monument sign along with 2 6-foot decorative piers. Before building permits can be issued, the applicant needs to have a site plan that reflects those structures to be in place. So the applicant here is tonight to ask for approval for a site plan to allow 8-foot, 10-inch decorative piers to be located on both the east and west side of Drexel Ridge Way, along with the gazebo that is located in the middle, which will have a development sign attached to the side. With that said, staff recommends that the Plan Commission approve the site and building plans for the accessory structures located at 7798 South Drexel Ridge Way, subject to conditions 1 through 3. And the one I didn't mention during my summary was the fact that the location of the guardhouse is within a water main easement. And so staff has concerns about having such a structure located in there in case of a water main break or any type of maintenance, that if there's any damage to the structure, that the city isn't liable for it. So right now, staff is working with the applicant to come up with a water main easement agreement, basically stating that if the gazebo is damaged due to any result of water main related issue, that the city is not responsible for any of it. So with that said, conditions 1 through 3 would be part of the approval for tonight. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Pete. We do have one person wishing to speak on it, Mr. Arden Dagner, 8540 South Pennsylvania. Arden, we skipped to 6J. 6J. Microphone, please.
Continue to point out that this is a very restricted area, a bottleneck for the 600 parking spaces. And there should be some consideration made for a school bus picking up students, unless they're going to allow them into this private road to block the traffic at these early hours in the morning when they pick up. This is the problem that I have with this, because we know that a school bus, and there are going to be students there. Will this guardhouse allow a queuing of students? If so, where will the buses park? There's no room.
Thank you, Mr. Dagner. We'll move right along. Fred, you got
I
something?
got a question for Brian about the water main. Is that running along the edge of the road, or is that going into the development?
The water main we're talking about actually goes into the development. We're currently reviewing the legal document, the easement for that. It's very similar to the high school crossing with their crosswalk at the high school they're putting in. Same type of document. It's a structure that falls in the easement. It's not directly over the water main, but it falls within inside that easement. So it's the same language we have.
Yeah.
I guess 2 quick questions. Brian, so that means if that's got to be dug up for some reason to repair, or is the city liable for their structure? No. It's all on them.
It's all on them.
They understand that, and so does the school?
Yes. Or if the water main breaks and structure falls down, it's all on them.
It's all on them. Okay. Second, to Mr. Dagner's point, I guess what happens with school buses? Will they be pulling into there, or will they be sitting on Drexel? Does anybody?
I believe that's up to the bus company and the school to determine that if the kids come out to the road.
But not Drexel Ridge? Can they prevent that?
I don't have a solid answer for that. I'll base it on the apartment I live nearby. They come to the road and the kids come out from the complex. So I think the kids would come up from the complex out to Drexel. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pete.
I really don't know. I mean, the only experience I know is at the Gables, which is on Howell Avenue. The bus stops on Howell, and all the kids aboard at Howell.
Thank you.
Wouldn't think they're gonna take that bus through the parking lot there, or whatever they have for parking. Wally?
Simple thing, I know it sounds corny. We're talking a guardhouse and we're talking a gazebo. I'd like to refer to it as a gazebo. I don't think we want to have our school bus kids dropped off at a guardhouse. Sounds kind of inappropriate. So I like the word gazebo. That's all I'm saying.
Point well taken. Commissioner Johnston, anything? Hello? Clark? Guzekowski? Fred?
I just want to know if that sign that's in the gazebo, is that going to be lit up? Or is that just going to be a regular sign of? I didn't see anything.
So the sign itself is non-illuminated, but we would have a spotlight shining up on it, which is consistent with the original sign that was approved. We had, with the masonry sign, we were going to have a spotlight shining up on it. So we would have the same thing here.
But no
The
spotlights.
sign itself is non-illuminated.
But no spotlights on the 8-foot pillars, just on the gazebo sign?
We may want, I mean, so it can be seen at night. I think that might actually dress that up so people can see it. Like from a decorative or aesthetic purpose, I think it would actually look better that way. But at the same time, actually, there's a lantern on the top of it, so maybe shining a light up on it is redundant and not necessary.
I have a question also for Pete now. The lighting for that sign, is there a standard that we have for the city as far as spotlights on signs or
It comes with the lighting
affecting
plan.
the neighborhood?
We have rules in our lighting section that talks about shielding. So we'll deal with that.
Just wondering about the neighbors across the street. Would that be, have any effect on those people?
I
Doubt
would
it.
put my trust in the electrical
Yeah.
inspector for, that there isn't any runoff lighting and usually everything's shaded.
And this is more like landscape lighting.
I'm just
yeah.
saying that we do have some lighting standards and just to make sure that, we're in compliance with the city.
And my guess is probably a fair amount of this lighting that would come off of this would probably be washed out by city street sign or street lights anyways. So
Set?
I have a
Chauncey?
quick question. So can you give a little more information about the gazebo? How tall is it? Again, how large? What's going to be?
sure, the height of it is 11 feet 6 inches. There's 4 posts. You have stone at the lower section of the posts. Then you have wood posts that extend to the canopy structure. The canopy structure is framed out of wood, has a roof line finished with shingles that match the rest of our buildings. And then inside is just an open air structure.
So no seating area?
No seating area or anything in there.
And once again, can you give us a little more information why the need for the sign on the gazebo itself?
We thought to have, if the 2 pier service more of kind of the accent piece, that to have one sign that's in the middle at the median, so you see it as you come in, we thought is appropriate.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're all set. I don't see any problems with it, but I'll address it anyways. I usually do at this. From the fire department standpoint, I know this won't be sprinkled, anything like that. Probably not even electrified. It looks plenty wide enough. Any problems, Mike, going forward with getting your equipment through? I know, he was probably getting some work done.
Mike Resick, Fire Department. As far as the access to the site, in the perfect world, it'd be great if it wasn't there, but it certainly does bring a certain aesthetic to that site, and it's placed far enough back where our apparatus will be able to make that turn and enter the site. So, certainly you can make any case that anything can serve as an obstruction to an access road, but in this case, it won't pose a major hindrance to the fire department.
Thank you. Okay, we all set?
Carl moves the commission approves the site and building plans for the accessory structures located at 7798 South Drexel Ridge Way, subject to the following conditions. One, that all building and fire codes are met. Two, that all decorative entry columns are located outside of road right-of-ways, envision triangles, and meet all setback requirements. Three, that a water main easement agreement be submitted and approved by the engineering department prior to building permits being issued.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, please.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Trell, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Thank you very much. Going back to 6C, we have conditions and restrictions submitted by Kelly Gallagher for self-storage located at 275 East Drexel. Whenever you are ready, Gary?
Commission will recall that this was recommended for approval at the April 25th meeting. This is a self-storage facility in the location shown on your screen. Tonight's review is for conditions and restrictions for the proposal. If you turn to page 2 of 9, section 3, parking and access, A, parking for this project shall be provided as follows. A minimum of 1 stall per employee, 1 space per 1,000 gross square feet of retail leasing office space, 1 space for every 10 units for interior controlled access buildings. Although units accessed via the exterior overhead roll-up doors may count 1 space in front of each unit as a parking stall, all travel aisles and emergency access areas shall remain completely unobstructed at all times, and all other parking shall be in accordance with sections 170403 and 170404 of the Municipal Code. Section G, all off-street parking areas, with the exception of parking in front of storage units, shall be landscaped in accordance with code. Page 3 of 9, section I, access to the development shall be via the existing private drive. No new curb cuts or access shall be granted from Drexel Avenue. What I will do is bring up the concept site plan so that everybody can have an idea of what the proposal looks like. Keep in mind, this is just a concept at this point. If you turn to page 4 of 9, section D, landscaping adjacent to buildings. Landscaping shall be provided adjacent to buildings facing Drexel Avenue as well as interior private roadway and adjacent to residential zoning district lines in accordance with plans approved by the Plan Commission and/or the Department of Community Development. All submitted plans must make adequate allowances for the required landscaping to be installed and maintained outside of existing or proposed easements. Page 5 of 9, architectural standards 6H. Overhead storage or bay doors shall not face on any abutting residential property or residential zoning district line. The Plan Commission may allow, as part of the site plan review, overhead storage bay doors to face a public street or right-of-way as a modification only if there's a 3/4 majority vote of the commissioners present at a meeting that approves of the orientation, and if it is proven to the satisfaction of the Plan Commission that no practical alternative exists, and if screening through vegetation, architectural walls, fencing, or a combination thereof is approved, and if supplemental design elements or improvements are incorporated into the project which compensate for the modification. Under 7, building and parking setbacks, they're established per code. 8, building height and area, again, just a restating of the code requirement that principal buildings shall not exceed 50 feet in height. No accessory unit structure shall be more than 17 feet in height, and the sum total of the floor area on all floors of the principal building and accessory buildings shall not exceed 60% of the lot area. Page 7 of 9, C, no outdoor storage or display of any kind. D, no storage unit shall be used for any of the prohibited items listed in 1 through 8. E, limited sales to tenants of products and supplies incidental to the principal use, e.g. packing materials, identification labels, rope, blocks, tape, etc., may be allowed within the retail leasing office as approved by the Plan Commission. And F, hours of operation shall be between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. 7 days per week. Plan Commissioners will recall that there was a request at the last meeting by one of the resident neighbors requesting that the Plan Commission look at the hours of operation. Under 11, permitted uses, all permitted uses in the LM1 light manufacturing zoning district, and specifically one self-service storage facility with no outdoor storage or display. These are for the Plan Commission's consideration. If the Plan Commission feels that these are appropriate, staff's recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council adopts the conditions and restrictions as part of the conditional use permit for a self-service storage facility on the property at 275 East Drexel Avenue. For your edification, there are also some very preliminary concept renderings that I will show on the screen now.
Carrie, did you cover items B and C of 13?
My apologies. Building permits must be issued to and construction begun on Building A as illustrated in Exhibit A of site plan prior to the issuance of building permits for any other storage structures which are buildings B through F. In other words, the two-story interior access climate-controlled building that'll be facing Drexel Avenue would be constructed prior to the rest of the buildings. C, an occupancy permit must be obtained for Building A, that larger interior two-story structure, within 150 days of the issuance of occupancy permits for the other buildings. This is modified from the language for the self-storage facility that is on College and Howell that was approved by the Plan Commission. So here's a concept rendering of that two-story interior access climate-controlled building. I believe this is facing, this would be facing Drexel Avenue. And this would be the side facing the residential neighborhood to the east. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Seeing no one wishing to speak on this, I will open it up for comments and questions from the commission. Wally?
I just want to ask Mr. Gallagher if he's comfortable with that, with the items 13B and C.
Kelly Gallagher, 3114 East Hunters Ridge Way, Heber City, Utah. And I'm going to take a minute and look at that.
Okay, yeah. That's the building permit.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we've already looked at that. It is very similar to what we're incurring on College and Howell. I'm happy to report I bought the land on College and Howell, so submitting permits for that in the next couple of weeks. And this is in concert with that, and we would accept it.
Accept it. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay.
I guess, just to jumpstart, as Mr. Gallagher's up there, is there any of the restrictions in there that we need to discuss?
I think on the parking side, we're going to try and do what we did with College and Howell on the number of stalls that for the interior component. Since the amount of usage there is similar to what we had on College and Howell, we would request a similar type of relationship to the number of stalls that were granted on College and Howell to this one.
I guess then, Carrie, my question would be, what do we need to change or look at, discuss to I mean, we did just go through this on College. I would assume similar usage. I guess
My counsel might have some better language for us here.
Well, all right, I could give the answer I think Carrie is going to give, and I've talked to Carrie about this. First off, Brian Randall, attorney with Freebert Finnerty and St. John, 330 East Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, here on behalf of Kelly Gallagher. The way I think best to approach the parking ratio issue would be at the site and building plan application process, which will be the step after the council reviews the rezoning and the conditions and restrictions, as well as we just wanted to make mention of the design standards. I think the standard 75% quality materials is in the conditions and restrictions document. And like College and Howell, these will really be sister facilities. We're trying to create a brand image. We'll be achieving the 50% standard that College and Howell had. But again, that Plan Commission waiver would be appropriate at the building and site plan stage. And so we're comfortable with that, but I'll defer to Carrie to make sure that that's the official version from staff as well.
Carrie?
Yes, staff is not proposing any changes to the conditions and restrictions. One of the reasons that we are not proposing that at this time is because we have not had plans to review at this point. So this does give the Plan Commission a little bit of leeway, as per code, that if you feel a modification of the standards is appropriate, at that time at site plan review, you would address it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nothing to my right? Nothing?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
We did have two requested changes, and they're relatively minor, and I apologize. And Matt Clemente, I want to introduce him from Stantec. He did have a good call with Phil Biermeister of the city engineer's office, and I know he tried to reach Carrie, but I wanted to just address two things. And before I do that, just to say the vast majority, in fact, almost all of them, we can comply with, that there's access only from the private drive, not off at Drexel, away from the neighbors. We won't have outdoor storage, no doors will face the street or residential. We'll have the staggered building permits, as Mr. Gallagher said, was fine. So very much like the College and Howell facility. But to bring your attention to page 4, which is section 5D, and maybe staff can clarify this, the requirement that the landscaping be installed and maintained outside of existing or proposed easements. That's the very last sentence. There is a drainage easement on the far east that came up a little bit at the last hearing, and the residents asked for us to be able to landscape that area, and we are willing to do that. We believe, and Matt, having had the conversation with Phil Biermeister, we believe that landscaping will be allowed in that easement. I do have a 1970 easement with me. Either we would like some language that just says something to the effect of that sentence can stay the same except where plantings are prohibited in such easements, or just that there's an understanding that if we can show that no easement would be compromised by putting plantings in there, we wouldn't want to be precluded from putting landscaping where I think the neighbors want it, where we want it, and the way this sentence is written right now, it precludes us from putting plantings in an easement. But I believe if it doesn't compromise the easement, that should be okay. Again, I apologize, I didn't have a chance to flag that or discuss it with staff in advance, although Matt
Yeah,
did.
but this has happened in the past as far as not having had a chance to work with staff ahead of time. So I think that's counterproductive when we come here and we get to this point where this is going on.
Brian, can you weigh in on this one?
Yeah, I think there's a couple issues with that. I believe that this is a public storm sewer easement that runs back there. So as a public easement, we would not allow the landscaping in there. I think we'd be willing to let this go private and you can maintain this, and then that issue goes away. The other thing would be the residents there want larger trees, and those absolutely would not be allowed in a public easement. And I think that's the big sticking point that we have there.
So the trees we're talking about are the
In
pines
this
that we're
picture
saying?
here,
Correct.
Correct.
What about them smaller ornamental trees?
No trees in a storm sewer easement.
They get away with?
Bushes and shrubs, yes, but that doesn't please what the residents were looking for along that back wall to break that image up.
But if trees are non-starters, we could break it up with something.
There is a solution though, Brian?
If it goes to private, yeah.
And so I think the solution then, to make my sentence even shorter, if you could just add the word public before the word easement in this sentence, then it would say no landscaping can be installed in a public easement. But if we can work with city staff to then take on that as a private easement, we can still comply with that with one word added to it.
Correct.
Yes. If I can ask a question, I don't know, Carrie, if you can answer this. If the city feels that's the best opportunity or to handle this problem, how do we go forward with making that happen from our end?
If you direct staff to amend that condition, we'll do so for council.
I think that would be the direction. Okay. All right. Anything else?
The only other clarification, as Carrie mentioned, under section 7, page 6, building and parking setbacks, she mentioned per code, and I just wanted to see clarification on the rear setback column. The figures are 30 feet for principal and accessory structures, and I know the LM1 district is newly minted, but I'll pass the copy I had handy over to Carrie just to, while I represent. I read the section as indicating 25 feet would be the per code column entry there. And for us, the rear setback would be the far south end, which doesn't abut residential. If I'm interpreting it correctly, the rear setback would be our south property line by the south stormwater pond, and I don't believe that abuts residential, so I don't think the 30-foot kicks in. Again, if we can work through it at the next stage in the process, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure we could comply. And the LM1 district is newly minted. It's recently published, and it showed up in our conditions and restrictions as 30 feet.
Transpose the 30 and 15 for the side and rear. I think that's what I did. So I'll fix that.
For council, that's fine.
So
With
we don't
that,
have to do anything in our motion. We
No,
just
you don't have to
assume-
do anything. I'll fix it.
Okay, you'll do it before the council.
Just very quickly, from fire standpoint, obviously, the two-story building's gonna be sprinkled. Do buildings B through E, Mike, or have you worked through a plan with them? And we're starting to see a lot of storage come through. We haven't had it in the past, so they're non-occupied.
Mike Krosick, Fire Department. So what's going to happen as the site plan, as the building permits come to us, we'll perform our, we're kind of working on some hypotheticals right now on the exact style of building, the dimensions, square footage, things like that. As those building permits come to us, we perform our review, and we can make a better determination on the fire suppression, detection, notification needs in those structures. Storage facilities are a little bit different, and I'm sure that the owner will have requirements on what can and can't be stored there. And when we are very interested in discussing that to prevent certain hazardous conditions. So I guess my point with that is, as the process progresses, we will work with the owner to determine the fire protection, suppression, and detection needs.
Great, thank you. All right, satisfied me. Anybody? Mr. Gallagher?
Confirm what the fire marshal said, in that our lease, which is generally about a 10 font size, has a special paragraph in it that's about size 18 font that says you cannot store flammables, propane, gasoline, fireworks, anything combustible of that nature. So we're very strict on what's allowed.
Good practice, it's protection of your property too, as well. Okay, I think we're ready to go, guys, ladies. Okay. Motion.
Seifert moves that the planning commission recommends that the common council adopt the conditions and restriction as part of the conditional use permit for the self-storage facility on the property at 275 East Drexel Avenue.
Chandler seconds.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Clark, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Crowell, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Great, thank you very much. Moving right along, item D, conditions and restrictions for a conditional use permit for Villa Healthcare. Carrie?
This also was recommended for approval at the last meeting on April 25th. The proposal is for a skilled nursing facility on the property that is in red on your screen. Tonight we'll be reviewing conditions and restrictions that are proposed as part of this. So if you'll turn to page Actually, you know what? What I'll do is I'll say that this is the exact same, roughly, document that was approved previously in 2016, or 2015, rather. So unless there are any specific questions about the proposal, there's really nothing to highlight, other than I would say that time of compliance section, which is standard in code, requires them to obtain building permits within 12 months of the date of adoption. So whenever council approves these conditions and restrictions, they would have 12 months to begin work. Otherwise, everything is pretty much the same. The only real change that I can recall making was actually to the legal description, because we had a better legal description from the CSM. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I will provide you with a concept site plan. Again, this is still in the works, but here's a layout, general layout of the single-story building. Again, there's a separate hospice facility wing that's on the north, access from Honadell Boulevard around the buildings. I will say that I was contacted by the abutting property owner Norb Thine, who wanted to express his disapproval of having wetlands on a facility for a skilled nursing facility. He's opposed to having anything that he would consider to breed mosquito-borne viruses, etc. So he wanted me to express his disagreement with having anything in terms of wetlands or standing water on the property. That's not necessarily for this review, but I'm passing along the information.
I'll note it.
Staff's recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council adopts the conditions and restrictions as part of the conditional use permit for a skilled nursing facility on the property at 8432 South 27th Street, which will become 2700 West Honadel Boulevard. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Seeing nobody wanting to speak
Oh,
on
wait,
it,
I do have a quick question.
yeah, we're going to open it up then.
Oh, you
So
are.
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just had a question about parking. And I know for some of the nursing facilities, we reduced the parking. I didn't know or couldn't recall if that applied to this facility. So if the item 3A would need to be modified or not. I could not recall.
In the previous iteration of these conditions and restrictions from 2015, I believe that the Plan Commission had said that we could use the parking requirements for a skilled nursing facility, even though this is in the multifamily residential district. The rationale is that because of the type of facility, few, if any, of the residents are actually going to be driving. These are going to be for deliveries, these are going to be for employees and visitors.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Brian?
Gary, I know we've talked to the applicant previously about the medians on Honadel, and I don't know if this is a good place to try and put that, or if the applicant is agreeable to putting, information for off-site landscaping in here. Maintenance of the medians on Honadel. There is, I think, 3 medians out there that was intended to be shared between the property owners to the north and south for maintaining those. I don't know if this is a good place for that or not.
It may not be the appropriate place, but it's a point well taken. We've had issues there because we've only had development to the south for years. Now that they came in, maybe that should be a joint effort to maintain those. Very good point brought up, Brian. So I think that is
Rather
worth a
than trying
discussion.
to figure out where or if it should be in the conditions and restrictions, I'd like to hear from the applicant or their representative on their thoughts on that, so that maybe we can address this either for the council version of the conditions and restrictions or later at the site plan review, perhaps in a development agreement.
Is the applicant here? Probably a new wrinkle for you. Name and address, please.
Grant Reginato with Direct Supply, Aptura, at 6767 North Industrial Drive in Milwaukee. My understanding was that this was part of a homeowners association. Am I correct in this?
There is a condo association on the south side that has been maintaining it for years. In their deed restrictions for their development, it states that when development on the north side takes place, there'll be shared costs for the median landscaping.
So I guess I would have to read the deed, and if you need to put that as a condition, I'll have to review that with the owner.
I guess we would ask you review that through staff, and as Carrie said, it can be brought up at the site or council. But I think it is something Brian just brought up, a very legit point. At one point in time, I believe the condos were going to stretch north, and that's where the agreement came from. But as circumstances changed and you arrived on the scene, it's something that you should work through.
I know it was brought up at our preliminary review,
Yeah.
and the owner was present.
Well, as long as you'll work through with staff, I think we're okay to move ahead. Wally?
As long as we have the owner up here, Do you agree with all the other conditions and restrictions? I'm sure they gave you a copy.
Yeah, I do have the owner's signature.
Oh, okay.
I'm representing the owner.
Oh, you represent, okay, I'm sorry, okay. But you're okay with what's here?
Yeah, and he's okay, and you've confirmed that it's identical except for the CSM.
I don't recall making any other changes to the document. We can do a side-by-side if there are any questions, though.
That? Okay, motion.
Hickman makes a motion that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council adopts the conditions and restrictions as part of the conditional use permit for a skilled nursing facility on the property at 8432 South 27th Street, which will become 2700 West Honolulu Boulevard.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Correll, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving right along, item 5E, conditions and restrictions for a new indoor commercial rec facility. Gary?
There was a recommendation at the April 25th meeting for an indoor recreation facility, which is actually more appropriately described as a fitness and martial arts center at the property at 440 West Bell Court. It is part of an existing multi-tenant manufacturing building that is on the property. One of the suites is going to be occupied by this, and there are 2 other tenants in that existing building. So if you turn to page 2 of 7 for the proposed conditions and restrictions, that will be the review for tonight. Under 3A, parking for this project shall be provided in accordance with the plans approved by the Plan Commission on December 14th, 1999, and sections 170403 and 170404 of the Municipal Code. Page 3 of 7, under 5A, landscaping shall be maintained in accordance with the plans approved by the Plan Commission on December 14th, 1999. Any changes to the site or landscaping shall require additional review and approval by the Plan Commission. Under 7, on page 5 of 7, reviewing the building and parking setback requirements in case there are any changes to the parking. Under 8, maintenance and operation on page 6 of 7, C, there shall be no outdoor storage or display of any kind, including but not limited to retail merchandise and equipment. Hours of operation under D shall be Monday through Friday, 5:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Under 10, permitted uses, all permitted uses in the M1 Manufacturing Zoning District, and specifically under B, 1 indoor recreation facility, which is a fitness and martial arts center with no outdoor storage or display. If the Plan Commission feels that these conditions and restrictions are appropriate, staff's recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council adopts the conditions and restrictions as part of the conditional use permit for an indoor recreation commercial facility on the property of 440 West Bell Court. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Again, I have no one wishing to speak, so we'll open it up for questions, comments from the commission. Forward.
I just
Pat?
had a quick question. The hours of operation, I see that they're limited without Sundays, Saturdays till 5. Not that familiar with these, but is there a reason
That was what was included in their narrative.
in their narrative, so they just don't need, okay.
Ollie?
I guess, Kerry, I have a little bit of a problem with these from the example landscaping. The landscaping itself requirement is not just on this tenant, but on the entire building. So how, yet we've written it like it's for this tenant, and I just feel a little uncomfortable with that,
The landscaping as written here is not requiring the tenant to do anything necessarily. What it's saying is, if you're going to change anything on the property, it has to be in accordance with that approved landscaping plan.
Okay. So he's not responsible
No.
for all the landscaping. Okay, thank you.
And no one else?
Correll moves the commission recommends that the Common Council adopts the conditions and restrictions as part of the conditional use permit for an indoor commercial recreation facility, fitness and martial arts center on the property of 440 West Bell Court.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Correll, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Great. Ever out there? Good luck. Item 6F. I think I said 5E last time, but anyways, we're in sixes. Conditions and restrictions for Kevin Crosby for another fitness and training. Boy, Oak Creek needs some fitness and training going on here. Gary?
Oddly enough, this was also approved at the April 25th meeting, and we are going to be going over conditions and restrictions for that one. So if you turn to page 2 of 7, under 3A, parking for this project shall be provided in accordance with the planned unit development plans approved by the Plan Commission on June 13th, 2000, and sections 170403 and 170404 of the municipal code. Under 5A, landscaping shall be maintained in accordance with the planned unit development and plans approved by the Plan Commission on June 13th, 2000. Any changes to the site or landscaping shall require additional review and approval by the Plan Commission. Under page 5 of 7, under 7, building and parking setbacks, again, those are from the planned unit development. Under 8C, there shall be no outdoor storage or display of merchandise. I'm on page 6 now. 8D, hours of operation shall be Monday through Sunday between 5:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. You may recall that they are going to be closed during the middle of the day, so they will have a break between 8, I think it was 4 or 4:30 in the afternoon. So, but this just says that they will have general hours of operation between 5:30 and 8:30. Again, there were no objections from the tenants that are in the planned unit development. In fact, we did get one letter in favor. Under 10A, all permitted uses in the M1 manufacturing zoning district are permitted, as well as one indoor recreation facility, which is a fitness center with no outdoor storage or display. The Plan Commission is comfortable with these conditions and restrictions. Staff's recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council adopts the conditions and restrictions as part of the conditional use permit for an indoor commercial recreation facility on the property at 9801 South 13th Street. Mr.
No? All right, I ain't speaking into it. Getting lazy here. Again, we'll open it up for questions, comments? No? Nothing? Okay, motion.
Seifert moves that the Planning Commission recommends that the Common Council adopt the conditions and restrictions as part of the conditional use permit for an indoor commercial recreation facility, fitness center, on the property at 9801 South 13th Street.
Chandler seconds.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Mark, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corella.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay, moving right along, 6G, CSM for Jerry Frankie at 10303 South Oakview Parkway. Gary?
The proposal is a further division of Lot 3 of CSM 8718, which is part of Oakview Business Park. Proposed CSM is shown on your screen at this time. 3 new development lots of conforming size are proposed, along with 1 irregularly shaped outlot for the remainder. The remainder is actually a zigzag portion that goes up to Oakwood Road here. There is a wetland located in the northwest corner of proposed Lot 2. It was delineated with the other wetlands in Oakview Business Park in 2008 with supplemental reporting in 2012 and wetland fill permit letters issued by DNR in 2013. And based on the plans that we have received that will be reviewed in the next agenda item, the proposed food distribution facility on Lot 2 will not have any disturbance to that wetland. There were some comments received from the water and sewer utility regarding 3 sanitary and water service laterals on Lot 1 and the requirements for their abandonment of unused laterals. They were provided to the applicant's consultant, but since there is no development proposal for Lot 1 at this time, abandonment for any of those unused laterals will occur once we figure out what's happening with Lot 1. Staff's recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Jerry Frankie of West Park LLC for the property at 10303 South Oakview Parkway be approved with the condition that all technical corrections, including but not limited to spelling errors, minor coordinate geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Seeing no speakers, I'll open it up to the commission. All right, motion.
Dick will make a motion. The Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Jerry Frankie, West Park LLC for the property at 10303 South Oakview Parkway be approved with the following condition: that all technical corrections, including but not limited to spelling errors, minor coordinate geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Crowell, aye.
Seibert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
All right, moving right along. 6H, site and review building and landscape and lighting plan submitted by Ron DeRosa, GSI Family Investments. Carrie.
The proposal is for a 118,006 square foot food distribution facility, of which 108,000 square feet will be warehouse and just over 10,000 square feet will be office. The proposal is including distribution of finished dry, cooler, and freezer products that will be shipped to hotels, restaurants, and resorts. This is a site plan showing the overall development. The building is in the middle here, parking on the north and east sides. There's a small parking area for the office on the south here. This is where the loading docks are on the south, as well as the what's called a truck court. The proposal meets all setbacks and dimensional restrictions. Future additions are shown on both the east and west sides of the warehouse, as well as parking expanded on the north toward the west. Access is via 2 drives. Trucks will enter and travel around the facility in a separate travel lane on the north portion, the north driveway here. So they'll travel all the way around to the loading docks on the south side. There are 6-foot tall security gates at certain points on the site that will restrict the trucks from going into the parking area and also from unauthorized vehicles entering the truck areas. There are 141 parking stalls that are provided in this site plan. There would be a maximum of 20 semi-trailers and 40 straight trucks in what's called the truck court. And that's on the south side here, so let me zoom in so you can get a better idea of what that is. Basically, it's where their overnight parking will be, close to the docks. And their overnight parking plan is just south of here, showing where the semi-trailers will be parked and where the straight trucks would be parked. The requirement for parking is 1 stall per employee at the peak shift. They have 2 shifts that have been identified. First shift would have 85 employees, second shift would have 21, therefore peak shift is first shift. Since there are more than 85 parking stalls provided, there is sufficient parking, and future parking has been identified for those 2 future additions. The dumpster and cardboard compactor are in the southeast corner of the loading dock area, therefore they do not need to be screened. We have received landscape plans showing where the landscaping is proposed around the facility. You will notice that there is extensive screening for buffer area to the residential properties on the north, and there's additional screening on the east and around the office area on the south. Unless otherwise directed by commission, final approval of the landscape plans would be by the Director of Community Development. There are proposed hours of operation Monday through Sunday. There are general hours, which are 24 hours a day. There are receiving, shipping, truck receiving, truck loading, and truck shipping hours. If anybody has any questions about that, I would be happy to try and answer those, or the applicant could be called upon to answer those questions. I will say that on Saturdays, there are no proposed hours. These are kind of small, but these are the building elevations for you. The main building material are insulated precast panels in 2 shades of gray with dark tan and gray-blue accents. There are also blue tinted windows on several sides of the facility, most particularly in the office area. There are no rooftop units that are shown on these plans. However, RTUs would have to be screened either by the parapet or other screening to be approved by the planning department. There are some grading and stormwater concerns that are currently being reviewed, and staff would just recommend that the applicant continue working with the engineering department to resolve those. Just to give you an idea of what the building would look like, this is a rendering looking at the office portion, so this is the southeast corner. Staff's recommendation is that the Plan Commission approves the site and building plans submitted by Ron DeRosa, GSI Family Investments of Wisconsin, for a portion of the property at 10303 South Oakview Parkway, subject to conditions 1 through 6. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Before we open it up to the council, we do have one person wishing to speak. Susan Malechko. Welcome.
My name is Susan Malechko. I live at 431 West Oakwood Road. So my property directly is impacted by this building, and I'm not really sure if this building is to the east of my property or if the building is going to be more to the south of my property.
You're directly on Oakwood Road?
I'm directly on Oakwood.
On the north side of Oakwood Road. This building's directly south of you, across Oakwood Road in Oakview Business Park.
It's to the east of me.
Well, I'm picturing the front of your house faces south.
The front of my house faces north.
Front of your house.
So she's on the
The
same
south
side
side
of
of
Oakwood.
Oakwood.
She's on the south side.
Oh,
of
you're
Oakwood
on
Road?
the south side of Oakwood.
Yes.
So this
Oh,
is to the
my,
east.
my mistake.
Yeah.
Yes.
These houses.
This would be
yeah,
to the
this
west
would
of.
Be to the east of you
Right, right. So it's directly, it will directly.
then. East if you abut the backside of Oakview Business Park.
Yeah, the 2 sides, right, the east side and the south side.
Yes.
I'm the-
Depending on how deep your lot is, yes.
It's about an acre. So
She the
I have
first
concerns
house?
what's going to be right next to me. Is there a building that's planned right next to me, or is there a building that's going to be behind me?
I
this
believe that's the end of the business park. This building would be the only thing that could go as far west as possible. Jerry, can you clarify?
Yeah.
Well, this is Oakwood Road here. Right. And then this is Oakview Parkway. The black box that's on the screen is the location of the proposed facility. So if you,
Behind.
Where's her house? That's what
I don't know which one is. This is Oakwood. Okay, so this is going to be south of you.
Yeah.
Not at this time, but there is a lot that will be there, a development lot.
And that's owned by the same?
Yes. Well, right now it's owned by Wiz Park.
Oh, so it's not owned by this food?
No, the lot that will be developed with the food distribution facility is the area that's outlined in the box right here. So that will be the lot that's owned by the food distributor.
Gary, can you identify the area we're speaking of?
The
I didn't see
house,
your
can you
arrow
get the arrow
or
on the
anything.
house, please?
This is
It's that
where-
first
Oh,
one.
okay.
That
right
first
here.
one, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Okay.
So she has.
No, I've been there for almost 15 years. You did?
Okay, I'm sorry,
Yep,
I didn't
yep.
recognize.
So this development's directly south of her, and potentially another business could be to her
East.
east.
That's correct.
Right.
So what part of this building is going to be facing my property? Is it going to be the offices? Is it going to be the terminals where the trucks are coming in?
No, the loading docks will be on the south. Let me bring up a site plan for you.
Will actually
So
be
th-
along
this
blank
is-
wall.
There is a access drive that'll be around the north, so this would be on the south side of you, and the north part of the warehouse would be facing you. So you would be this elevation here in the middle, that would be what you would see. But again, there's landscaping there, so some of that you wouldn't see.
And is that landscaping going to go the full length?
Yes. So this is the landscaping that's proposed along the full length. That would be direct abutting your property as well as the other residential properties.
How wide is that?
I'm not certain how wide that is. It's,
The,
the landscape buffer is a minimum of 20 feet wide. I'm not entirely certain how wide this is. I think it's like 25, maybe a little bit more.
and what kind of lighting is going to be affecting us as far as what's going to come from the,
Well, I would guess on the building, over the doors, they're gonna have egress lighting by code, which would probably be a wall pack with shade cutoff.
Lumen, I mean, it
So-
can't get past the.
Right, so they can't stray onto the property. We don't want the light pollution in your windows. And again, if we have that issue, we've experienced it on Bayview Shade across the street where they switched to LED lights. We had them shaded. We sent the inspector out, but for the most part, the egress lighting for sure would have to be there by code.
and we right now have a berm on the backside of our property. And if you're putting in an additional berm, I would just need to make sure that we have access
To your back
to our,
side.
right. I mean,
yeah, I don't. They wouldn't infringe your property. I don't believe they could. So
I mean, because if you're putting one berm right next to another berm, there could be, it just seems like it'd be kind of awkward. You know what I mean?
it could, as long as you ain't in the easement, you should be.
You won't have to take
Well,
care of the
Brian-
backside of your
Brian-
berm anymore.
Yeah,
It'll be
Now,
taken
that would be
care
a
of.
plus.
I think it will be in actuality.
Brian, anything on that one?
Yeah, just looking at the grading plan that was submitted in with this, that actual road that loops around back behind the building, that'll be about 5 foot lower than what your property line is currently. So that all gets dropped down, so you'll be sitting up higher.
Okay.
Okay. Looking at the photometrics that they have here, at the property line, it's about 0.25 foot candles. So there's not really a whole lot of light that's bleeding off the property from their development.
And then as far as like construction, what is the code as far as like, are they working 7 days a week to construct this, or is it?
Typically, it's a 7 to 3:30 day, somewhere in there, maybe six.
Monday through Friday, or is that considered
It's
weekends?
normally Monday through Friday, unless there's an overtime push. You may see some Saturday or some longer weekdays. It really depends on the applicant and his time frame.
Just, so that there's some consideration with the neighbors there. I mean, they're like right on top of us
We do have
now.
ordinance as far as start and finish times for construction.
Okay. And even as far as the actual construction with the dust, and I know the one building that they have back there now, they're painting it. I mean, if that would be happening, I'd be a little concerned as far as any spray coming my way, that type of stuff.
Legitimate concern, and usually responsible contractors take that into account where the wind's blowing and what have you. If you did run into an unfortunate situation where overspray did occur, we take it up with the contractor.
And what about like the noise from the trucking, the backing up noises, the diesel smells? Is there any consideration as far as that goes? I mean, am I going to be able to open my windows in the summer?
I can't truly answer that. I don't know what their truck traffic will be. Jerry, if you want to try to address that, maybe Wispark can help out on that end.
First of all, there's several things
Name and address, please.
Jerry Frankie, West Park, 301 West Milwaukee, Wisconsin Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. First of all, a couple of things I want the commission to understand or be realized. We did reach out to all of the property owners that abut Oakwood, and this one property owner showed up. I had my phone number and my email address in the notice, asking anybody if they had questions to reach out to us. I've previously met with this property owner, and we've dealt with some issues. Another thing I'd like you to know is that by zoning ordinance, there is a requirement that the building be at least 100 feet from the property line when it abuts when manufacturing abuts residential. We're doing that in this case. We cannot touch their berm on their property. However, I'm sure that when we get to the point of doing landscaping, I'll be happy to meet with them and go over it. And if there's an appropriate way to deal with that, we will. We understand this is a adjacent use that we want to respect our neighbors. And finally, regarding the noise of truck traffic, all of the backing up will be on the south side of the building. So it will be screened. It's going to be several hundred feet away, and it'll be screened by the building.
I hope that, does that help you, ma'am? Commission? Greg?
Again, I'm kind of new to all this. Just looking at the plans, is there a requirement, I don't know whether it's safety or a requirement for the trucks? It looks like with the service drive, the trucks are driving all the way around the building to get to the south side. Can they not just enter the driveway on the south and avoid going all the way around the building?
What happens is that truck traffic has to come around and look over their left shoulder as they're backing in, but I'll let Werner.
What would be a safety issue, basically?
Werner Brisky, Partners in Design Architects, 2610 Lake Cook Road, Riverwoods, Illinois. Exactly what Jerry was alluding to. The better way for a truck to hit a dock is in a counterclockwise motion, so that they're using their left shoulder instead of their mirrors for backing in. Plus, it also keeps the trucks moving in a single direction so that we don't have cross traffic in the dock area of trucks coming in, trucks going out. We also have cars coming in out to that small parking lot. We're trying to minimize the conflicts that we're getting for that. The other issue is they do occasionally have times where we want to get any trucks queuing and stacking off of the streets and not jamming up the truck court. There are times when they do have multiple trucks arriving at the same time, and that kind of conflict can also jam up the truck court.
Anyone else?
I
Fred?
just have a question on the trucks. What type of trucks are they? All semi, or are they small delivery trucks that you're going to have?
Both. Incoming is typically semi, so they're receiving goods typically by semi, but their delivery trucks are panel trucks. They're at night and then going out in the day to deliver to their customers. So those are the smaller trucks that you see in the parking layout that would get staged along the south property line for overnight parking.
Those small trucks delivery, are they primarily in the Milwaukee area or Milwaukee County and that?
The entire state.
Entire state?
Yes.
Okay.
Pat?
I guess just a quick comment that, I mean, it's in a business park adjacent to residential. I don't know if they could have really laid it out much better. I think it looks efficient and it's taken that consideration as much as you can. So I think it looks great.
Ollie?
I agree with Pat. I like the idea that the trucks are moving forward, going around, so they're not backing up. Otherwise, the neighbors would
Lots of
really
beeping.
hear a lot of noise. And I agree it's being blocked, but they'll still hear some, but at least there's some blockage, when they back up.
I do have a couple questions.
Commissioner Chandler?
Okay, can you provide a little more information on the little small windows, their purpose and the sides that they're on? They're really
On
comparison to the size of the building.
the warehouse portion of the elevation. So the warehouse is divided into freezer, cooler, and dry goods storage. About half of the building will be dry goods, the other half freezer and cooler. In the freezer cooler portion, there will be an insulated metal panel, a freezer panel box essentially built within the precast box. So there'll be an additional super insulated wall built inside there. So we really don't have any opportunity to bring natural light into that. And plus the heat issue, the cold and the heat would be just condensated window. But in the dry goods warehouse, we're providing those windows just for some clear story light, just some high windows to bring a little bit of natural light into that space.
Aren't they on all four elevations?
No, they're only on the three sides and only on the dry goods warehouse end, which is at the east end of the building. The other half of the building does not have any.
Okay, And do you have the materials or samples of the materials?
Well, it's a painted precast concrete wall panel. We're still working through some final color selections. I mean, I do actually have some samples of one round if you want to see those, but I can say they're approximations at this point, and we're not quite 100% resolved on that yet.
And also, can you provide a little more information about the hours? Because you had hours of operation, trucking hours, and they were all different.
Right. As I was saying earlier, and I think they're in the table correctly, but, and Ron, you may want to comment on this if I don't hit everything to answer this question properly. But typically, receiving happens during the day. So the semis would come in during the day, be unloaded into the warehouse, and then the route trucks come back from their day trip of delivering. They would stage into the docks, be loaded overnight, be prepped and ready to go so that in the morning they can take off at various points in the morning depending on where they need to go. And then that happens again the next day. So semis come in during the day, load in the warehouse. The trucks come back at the end of their delivery day, get loaded overnight. So they're sitting on the south side getting loaded overnight, get prepped to go out the next morning again.
And this is Monday through Friday only?
No
Sorry, let me
Saturdays,
double check that.
restaurants don't take the deliveries on Sundays.
No Saturday deliveries, right?
Okay. Okay.
All right, we're all set.
Mhm.
Just a couple from me. They're all pretty much standard conditions. I would just say mechanical equipment, I know you may have it internal for the office, whatever, but if you are doing anything rooftop, building, ground, you have to screen the mechanicals on that. I'm sure you're working through with our fire department on it. Any concerns, Mike, on the turnarounds, on the layout? As long as I got you here, I'm sure you're
So a facility this size, and certainly it accounts for some access around it, so the access is quite good. The only comment I wanted to make, and I'll preface that by saying it'll be our standard duty to work with them regarding code enforcement as the building permit and site plan process progresses. So we'll certainly make sure all codes are adhered to. The initial drawing they did submit, though, is something that we did appreciate. If you looked at that initial drawing, there's a bunch of circles drawn on it with radii. That's basically, they already established, according to our ordinance, hydrant locations and distances. So they're being proactive about at least preparing that site for what's about to come with fire department requirements.
very good.
One additional question. Since the applicant is unsure of the colors, should we specify the colors? Should they come back for the colors?
I think they did
No, I think
specify.
we've got a color palette. I think that's fine.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Seeing nothing else, motion.
Carl moves the commission approves the site and building plans submitted by Ron DeRosa, GSI Family Investments of Wisconsin, Inc. for a portion of the property at 10303 South Oakview Parkway with the following conditions. 1, that all building and fire codes are met. 2, that all final plans, site building, landscaping, lighting, etc. are submitted in digital and paper formats for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of building permit applications. 3, that all mechanical equipment, ground, building, and rooftop is screened from view. 4, that final lighting plans indicating luminaire type, pole type, color, and height are submitted for the final approval by the electrical inspector prior to the submission of building permit applications. 5, that stormwater and grading plans are submitted for the final approval by the engineering department prior to issuance of permits. And 6, that all water and sewer utility connections are coordinated with the Oak Creek Water and Sewer Utility.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Johnson, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye. Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Correll, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Great, thank you very much. Last item of the night, seeing as we took care of Jay earlier, is a minor land division for a certified survey map submitted by Greg Thompson. Pete? Get the last item of the
I'll
night.
wrap up the night tonight. Should be a straightforward one. It's a minor land division. The applicant is requesting that a certified survey map for the properties at 331 and 401 East Oak Street be combined for future development of Storage Shop USA that we've talked before with the comp plan amendment, conditional use, all that good stuff. The result of the combined properties will result in actually a 1.9623 acre lot, not what I have in my report, which was 1.923. The size of the lot does conform with the M1 zoning district. With that said, staff recommends that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Storage Shop USA LLC for the properties at 331 and 401 East Oak Street be approved with the condition that all technical corrections are made prior to recording. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Pete. I have nobody wishing to speak on it. Questions from the commission? No,
We've talked about this.
pretty much. We've been, I think this is about our third time through on this, so.
Oh, we still have site plan review. We got more.
Yeah, we
we're
do
not
have
done yet.
Why does this one seem so complicated, Pete?
Because this was residential. They wanted to have a change to manufacturing, but our comp plan did not reflect that, so they had to do a comp plan amendment to allow manufacturing there. Then they had to have a conditional use for, because it's that self-storage condo development, so they needed a condition, to rezone from residential to manufacturing, conditional use permit, then they had to combine the properties, all to lead us up to the next meeting where we will discuss their site building and landscape plan. And then the applicant, assuming all approvals are given, they can then go for building permit review. So it's quite the process.
Motion?
And maybe we should let our new plan commissioner make a motion.
Do not make him do that.
Oh, geez, there's a lot of pressure going on there.
A lot of pressure.
I was here 3 years before I had to do one.
Go ahead.
Believe it or not, I still haven't done one. I'm waiting.
Laura will motion to recommend to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Storage Shop USA LLC for the properties at 331 and 401 East Oak Street be approved with the condition that all technical corrections are made prior to recording.
Johnson seconds.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Laura, aye.
All right.
Then we gotta finish.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Keep going.
You.
Oh, who gave it to you?
Sorry, that's my fault.
Guzekowski, aye.
Correll, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Floating through, I'm getting ahead of myself. Mr. Frankie?
No, I was the cause of your confusion. I just would like to take 15 seconds. Tonight's probably the last night you will ever see me at an Oak Creek City Plan Commission meeting. I want to tell you, we've had a lot of fun working with you. I think that the Plan Commission, certainly its staff, and all the people here have been a critical part of a successful developments that we're working on together. So I will miss being here on certain Tuesday nights, but I do want to thank you for the opportunity to work with Oak Creek. And you are the most dynamic community in our region right now. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. And if
Good luck to you.
If you ever want to take up a hobby and just
Get on this side.
get on the feel of hanging out at local government, you are always welcome.
Congrats.
We have several citizens that come faithfully. You may want to join them for coffee before and come.
And have a great retirement.
So with that, quite frankly, Dawn, I think you've lied because you've made a motion to
I
adjourn.
know. Grillo moves to adjourn at 7:49.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Laura, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Again, I'd like to thank everybody that came and attended and those watching at home or streaming. Have a great Mother's Day weekend. And again, as I always say, get out there, celebrate Oak Creek, and discover Oak Creek. Good night. Thank you.